All right. Let's get going here. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rough Report. We're about to get Nat on the phone. We're going to try connecting with her right now. Hopefully, this time it actually works. Hello, Nat. Are you there?
I might be. Am I there? I think
I
I'm there.
I think I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, can you see me? See me? It
I
says
cannot
it's
see
requesting.
you.
Says it's requesting video. I don't know what that means from your end.
I don't know. You can, if you want to be on video, you can.
Well, I, I, I turned it on.
Oh, okay. Well, where's now I gotta find which window you're in here.
Mm.
Uh, okay. Oh, I don't see any. I don't see you.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up and I'm gonna try this again. Okay.
Okay. All right. Call me back. Okay. All right. She's trying to call me now. I don't know. I don't know if my camera will work. Yeah, it won't. Um. Yeah. Share video. There we go. I don't know if it will work because my camera's already running on one piece of software.
Okay, well, whatever. I'll just turn off my video then and just continue on auditorily.
Yeah, we can definitely hear you here. Um,
Cool.
what I might suggest for you is since I couldn't get the Zoom call thing to work earlier, is you might want to watch the actual like stream here, but just on mute,
Mhm.
so you can see some of the visuals that I'm going to be using.
Yeah.
Because boy, do I have some visuals that I am going to be employing here.
Okay.
All right. So, as always, if you're joining us live, let us know you're here. We love hearing from you. The chat box is there, invisible, and what you say will appear on the screen somewhere around here. Um, so let's get right to it. I wanted to first talk in this episode about the election. Of course, that just happened. It just wrapped up on Monday there. Um, Nat, let's hear as I get some things queued up on the screen. Let's hear some of your post-election thoughts.
Um, I mean, it could have been worse. That's
Yeah,
really the best thing. That's really the only positive thing I have to say about it, honestly.
yeah,
Well, not entirely. You know what? I think that Jagmeet is getting more visibly out there, and people
yeah.
are getting more comfortable seeing him as the party leader of the NDP, and his name's getting more familiarized,
Mm-hmm.
and people are just, they recognize him again. So honestly, from that perspective, for the NDP, I think that this election was a good thing. Um, in terms of, them not riding the orange wave and getting like a billion seats, we always naturally, you and I specifically, wanted the NDP to take over and fix stuff.
Yeah.
That didn't happen this time. But you know what? Honestly,
Yeah.
um, yeah, given the dramatic state of things, um, I guess I'm satisfied with not being horrifically disappointed with a conservative government.
Yeah.
Right?
What's it was kind of a strange election in a number of ways because the I think the narrative around Justin Trudeau going for like a power grab is a little bit of a purposeful conservative talking point. I mean, any conservative party in the same position would have done exactly the same thing. This wasn't a, like, Trudeau being dictatory and going for a power grab. I mean, the conservatives have done this in the past, and there is definitely historical precedent for the fact that a minority government after 2 years either goes one of two ways. It tries to call an election because it sees it as potentially advantageous to do so, or there's a no vote, a vote of no
Would have
confidence.
done. Yeah.
It's one or the other, and it seems to happen like clockwork right around the same time. Just strategically speaking, they tried to capitalize on a certain moment, and it kind of blew up in their face.
Mhm.
The talking point around it being a power grab, I think, with how a lot of people were already starting to feel about Justin Trudeau, whether it be based in any kind of truth or not, I think proved to be kind of effective in putting a damper on these seats that they had projected to get. And usually that data is pretty, like, when they say a certain amount of time out, that hey, if you take this window, you can get X number of seats. A lot of the time, that's fairly accurate.
Mhm.
And But as I pointed out on the last episode of the show, talking about the election and the poll numbers and stuff, uh, the polls looked exactly the same as 2019,
Mhm.
and that kind of proved more or less to be correct. Um, if I have this graphic up here that shows what this election just looked like, 2021. This is what the outcome of that was. The Liberals ending up with 158 seats when they were very much hoping to get 170 and thought they could do so. With the Conservatives ending up with 119 and NDP ending up with 25. Um, if we look back at last election 2 years ago, I'm going to blow this up a little bit because for some reason it's a slightly smaller graphic. 157 seats for the Liberals, Conservatives 121, and NDP 24. It
Mhm.
is barely different.
Mhm.
Essentially nothing happened.
Yeah.
And when they say, "Oh, it's this $600 million power grab by Justin Trudeau," it's such. I think, like, that's just the cost of running democracy. It's not like they were flushing $600,000 extra down the toilet. The money was already taken and put aside for that purpose. It's just kind of a silly non-argument in the face of all the other spending problems and taxation problems that we have.
Honestly, most people don't really understand where government spending goes to, or
No,
have
obviously
any
not.
kind of, yeah, or have any kind of perspective on the volume of the numbers that our country works with.
Yeah,
Um, so when you throw out a number like 600 million, most people can't conceive as to like what that actually means, and
right,
so they just think big
right.
number, bad, right?
And and
And
most
so
and
if
most of
if
that is
you're
just people working. That's people
oh,
working
I'm not
jobs.
yeah, yeah. Well, like, who of us, and I mean, like you and I and the people we know, has ever had access to anything that would give us perspective on her hundred on $600 million?
Right.
Like, we will never in our lifetimes
Well, I think it's
understand what
just
that money actually is, right?
right.
Just by function of like where we are class wise and what resources we have
Of
access
course.
to. All we know is that money is big, and so, of course, like the conservatives will use this as a wedge to be like, look, big money, bad. They did bad, right?
And then turn
Because
around and
we
give
don't know
like
better.
trillions of dollars to some other shit, right?
Oh, for
And
sure.
and that's what I mean about getting a perspective on these numbers, is like we may never be able to appreciate in a class way, like possessing or wielding $600,000, but we can certainly get a perspective of what $600,000 means in terms of government, or $600 million means in terms of government spending.
Hmm.
And quite frankly, it's that's just the cost of running democracy. I think it's kind of a good thing in a way that we can under certain circumstances, call an election after 2 years and not be stuck waiting an extra two uh, through something that may not be working. Of course, it's not a
Mhm.
great system as it is, but I do like something about the idea of being able to call an election every 2 years if and when it comes down to it.
Well,
Um,
like,
you know,
for example, it would have been great if we could have recalled the Ford government,
right,
but
right, exactly, right. Well,
um,
didn't he get?
just because he
Jesus,
had a
yeah,
majority,
he
so
had a
they can't.
majority. Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna say, didn't he
Yeah,
get a
so they
majority?
can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, they can't get a vote of non-confidence because there's not enough people to
exactly, exactly.
unconfidence him.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem with the majority and just like the two-party
Yeah.
system that we have and how there needs to be a sense of electoral reform. Fun fact, Justin Trudeau lost the popular vote. The Conservatives actually got more physical votes than Justin Trudeau. But of course, how our system works, Trudeau ended up getting elected. And, of course, I never want to see a
Oh
conservative in
no.
power,
Right.
but nonetheless, it's going to be further incentive for him to do absolutely nothing about election reform. Election
Hmm.
reform is smoke and mirrors. This party will never do it. It's not a Trudeau thing. It's a Liberal Party thing. It's a Conservative Party thing too. I don't think either of them see it as within their potential interest to do serious voter reform.
No, of course not.
No, I just don't see it happening. And speaking of people not knowing and not being aware of certain things, I have some great visuals to pull up here. So buckle your seatbelts. Over the past couple days, you know, because of it being post-election, and then at least here in Ontario, I think the case is in a lot of places across Canada now, and in the United States in a lot of respects, is vaccine passports. So we had two big things that have triggered the right in a big way. And the memes, and of course, in right wing fashion, the just completely shitty, nonsensical memes have been flowing. I've seen it on my social media feeds, and I know you've gotten a bit exposed to this as well. And I know that was partially the inspiration for you, particularly wanting to co-host the show tonight. So
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, and um, I feel you because some of the stuff I'm about to pull up is
Maddening.
the maddening and from people that are in my life, right?
Yeah.
So um yeah, let's just talk about that a little bit. Let me try and find, because I wanted to start with just general election type of stuff
Hmm.
that just doesn't make sense or is just like generally anti-Trudeau in nonsensical ways. And like, just to be clear, Nat and I are not pro-Trudeau, right? Like,
No.
we are both NDP voters, NDP supporters,
Hmm.
in the electoral sense, idealistically very socialist.
We're
Um,
just less anti-Trudeau as we are anti-Tool.
Yes, exactly. I am less anti-liberal party than I am anti-conservative party.
Which is not
Yeah.
a function of like, oh, that's just always the way I've voted. It's a function of actually paying attention to what these parties and these people want and advocate for.
Yeah. It's something that you can see in the history. Like, liberals are responsible for a lot of the headway in terms of minimum wage, even though it is meager and behind what it should. If
Mhm.
conservatives were left completely to it, our wages would not be nearly as good as they are now. And and just so on and so on and so on. You can apply that to healthcare. You can apply that to workers' rights. You can apply that to everything.
Could apply
Where
that to same-sex marriage, certainly.
Yeah, yeah, most certainly same-sex marriage, the legalization of cannabis. There's a lot of things that the liberals uh, do, done, or potentially would do that the conservatives never would, and I mean that in the most positive sense.
Mhm.
And there's certainly things that the conservatives would do that the liberals never would, even though they ultimately, are completely recognize our system is broken in the sense of just swapping back and forth between these two parties perpetuates a certain system and a certain problem. Absolutely. But it has to be pointed out repeatedly that there is a clear difference in the policy and the function of these two parties. And like a lot of and when conservatives are pushed into corner in this country because a lot of them ostensibly just don't know what they're talking about, politically speaking, just to be blunt about it. um they end up doing and voting for things and going for things that are ultimately against their interests,
Mhm.
and end up doing stuff that doesn't make any freaking sense. Like this meme. It's like, the ongoing war of the left can't meme, the right can't meme. I really don't care if the left can meme or not, because I don't think uh, memes are going to make any political difference
No,
to people's
it's just
attitude on the left. I think it can affect people on the right because it's just silly catch-all lazy shit that those people tend to gravitate to. As long as it coddles their bias, they're going to be all for it.
mhm.
But just here, let me pull up this fucking okay.
And also, just to reiterate what you're saying about, folks being uninformed, um, yeah, found out that my former in-laws, a lot of them voted
Of
conservative.
course they did.
My ex is a non-binary trans person, and they just completely did not understand that they're voting directly against their safety and freedom.
Yeah.
Like, they just do not understand that point, and more to that, they don't even understand what they're voting for,
Let me tell
which
you,
is just
a queer
so
person in
disappointed.
some of these very blue parts of Ontario is it's outright unsafe,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
conservative voters, a certain faction of conservative voters rather, are ecstatic about that, to put it bluntly.
Which is like, it's so bananas because it's not like my ex's family is unaware of the fact that we had to like escape a homophobic um dangerous town in 2013 because like we just
Yeah,
had
exactly.
no
You
safety and
you
stability
felt
there.
threatened
We
in your
were.
livelihood. Yeah, you were physically threatened. Your livelihoods were threatened, um, and you couldn't safely exist there.
And
And
yet
then
they have not put two and two together.
you get and these same sorts of people post stuff like this.
Yeah.
Um, like, what is this meme? What it's like there's so many other jokes you could have made about the dick-shaped potato,
Hmm.
and this is what they went with, huh? this
Well,
this is
like,
the biting political commentary that they decided to dig out of this.
I mean, we know a lot of legitimate dictators. It's not hard to find them. Um, but seriously, JT is a dictator? Give me a
Yeah,
fucking break.
yeah, it's just
Like,
like
for
of
Christ's
all the
sake.
jokes you could have said, it was like I don't know, like it made some sort of PEI centric joke around it. I don't know. That's like it's just a really bad meme. But then these people share it and they find it
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Not because it's clever or well thought out, but just because
Mhm.
just Trudeau's dictator, because he does things I don't like. And
Because he's Penis.
Yeah.
Got him.
And the stuff that they don't like when you actually sit down, particularly I find with conservatives here in Ontario, or anybody who's like center right or further out there, whatever. When you actually sit down with them and start questioning them on this stuff, where you go like, why do you think he's a dictator? And at some point, it's going to come down to taxes.
Mm.
Complaining about I'm tired of as a working person being taxed to death by Justin Trudeau. And Justin Trudeau cut your taxes unless you make over $200,000 a year.
Mm.
That's a fact. And you know how many
Mm.
times I've run into people who are like, well, yeah, my property tax went up after he got in office. He doesn't decide your property taxes. Nobody on the federal level does not decide your property taxes.
No.
Your municipality does.
Yeah.
You don't even know what the source of your anguish and problems are. But you know, you just hear the conservative narrative that liberals equals higher taxes, and you just believe it. And I can guarantee, there's no one in my family that makes over $200,000 a year, at least as far as I know. So, what the hell are you talking about? You know,
Yep.
it's freaking wild to me. Here, I'm just gonna adjust my microphone volume for a second here
Yeah.
on the
Um,
streaming.
but yeah, and
Check,
it's
check, check.
like they just, if they could cite good examples, then maybe I would have something to work with, right?
Yeah,
Because my
there's
interest, and here's one thing that shits me all the way to fucking death every time, is that they seem to want these conversations to revolve around like, oh, my party won, your party lost. And it's like, you know what? I'm not actually interested in the party. I'm actually interested in people having a better quality of life.
yeah.
If you know ways in which this, the party that you're traditionally going to vote for is going to improve across the board quality of life, I want to hear about
Oh,
it
you could
because
name
I
it the
want,
water party, waterboarding party. For all I give a shit, is if they're
yeah.
giving workers rights and all that stuff. I don't care what party it is. You
Like
know,
this isn't,
yeah,
like I am so utterly uninterested in ideological gotchas.
yeah.
All I want is for people to be safe and healthy and, content.
Hmm.
And the reason I don't see happy is because some people are only happy when they're making other people miserable. And you know what? Like I can't abide that. So
Yeah,
clearly I can't agree with everyone being happy because some people are just miserable fucking bastards.
yeah, and they kind of, because of how they're miserable in one sense or another, they think everybody else should be too, and
Yeah.
for possibly the same reasons, because then it's normal, right?
Yeah, so
Uh,
regardless, I still want these people to be like healthy and safe,
yeah.
right? And content insofar
Even
as,
though I think
they're
your
not.
beliefs may be inhumane,
Yeah.
I still want you to have access to basic
Human
services
dignity.
and human dignity. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and the thing is like, and I don't conflate that the same thing as being like, oh, well, just because we have a difference of opinion doesn't mean that your opinion is invalid. No, your opinion might be really fucking
It
invalid,
might be
and
completely
it
invalid.
might, yeah, and it might,
For
not
instance,
deserve to.
calling Justin Trudeau a dictator. That is just not a thing, my guy. Like
Yeah.
he has a minority government after trying to pull a rabbit out of his hat.
Yeah.
And do this stunt for the 15 seats, if you want to call it a stunt. But like I said, we've already been over that.
Mhm.
He only got one more, and that's not much more power. Like, what dictator of what? He went to get more power and didn't get it. How dictatory is that? It just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense on any level. And then, like, pretty much from the same source here, we got this one. Repost. Canadians are now living under the most corrupt, unethical government in the history of our country. Uh,
I will find you and I will
Objectively
fart on your
false.
pillow and give you pink eye until the end of time. Like,
Objectively false. And there's been worse corruption from the Liberal Party in the
I was gonna
past.
say, I'm like,
There
there's
have
a
been
reason
more
why we
corrupt
there's a reason why
Liberal
we ousted
leaders than
Chrétien.
Justin Trudeau. Yeah. Like, if you want to talk about like guys who made like dirty, underhanded choices, there's a lot more to choose from Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
His like especially by comparison, his hands are pretty clean. And then furthermore, compare it to any conservative, because if you want to complain about people who are bought and paid for politicians, well,
Hmm.
look no further than the Conservative Party. That's their entire ethos is, hey, yes, whatever, interest in the private sector is willing to grease my palm, I will go to bat for you. And that's the Conservative Party. That's what they do. That, like, it's not even, they don't even hide it. It's just, so again, objectively false. It bonkers, and it's just like lazy political commentary that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't point to any facts. It doesn't point to anything he did. It's
Hmm.
just raw, directionless outrage, right?
Hmm.
Like, if you wanted to call him a liar for not doing election reform, cool, I'm
Hmm.
on board. That's an issue he failed on. If you want to call him out for still not having doing something about the missing and murdered Indigenous women, residential schools, true reconciliation, clean water for Indigenous communities, if you want to
Hmm.
go after him for that, fuck yeah, I'm game. That's something he's seriously failed on. But
Hmm.
the conservatives never want to talk about this stuff because these are all issues that
They
they
won't do either.
they wouldn't do either. They're kind of okay with it, and in fact, they get extremely triggered even by the mere fact that Justin pays lip service to it.
No.
He even mentions that Indigenous people are worth dignity, even if he never acts on it. That is outrageous enough to them. That like
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the promotion of diversity is offensive to these people. So here, let me. I'm gonna get on to the next meme here because it's all interrelated in terms of the election that just happened and the fact that vaccine passports are coming into place, and a huge crossover on this Venn diagram, of course, of conservative and ultra conservative people and hating pretty much every decision Justin Trudeau has made about the pandemic that is even remotely good.
Hmm.
Right. So, like, yeah, moving on to, okay, yeah, where is it? Let me try and find the next coherent subject. Yeah, this is particularly shared from a person who is, anti Trudeau, anti vaccine, anti COVID. And I've seen this shared like amongst the conservative groups and stuff like that. And I couldn't help but to find this perspective coming from that political arena as so especially rich. Um, just to read it and like just in going with this image and stuff, it's sort of like you're an alcoholic and you stop drinking, but you live the rest of your life in a bar. You're in the bar, but you don't really fit in because you're not drinking anymore. Awakening is a bit like that, like sobering up, but spending the rest of your life in a bar where everybody's drinking and rather drunk, loaded, and acting weird because of it, and wondering why you're not partaking and thinking you're a bit strange, I truly appreciate the use of the word awakening because it's so far removed from like just being self-aware, like, oh, you mean like being woke, bro, that thing that
Mm.
you guys hate so much. Are you
Mm.
woke now? You woke up and you're seeing the real world and understanding what's happening around you and the corruption around you. It's it's just
So
it's just
wiki
blatant
walkie, well,
hypocrisy, right?
it's fucking well,
It's goofy. It's straight
it's
goofy.
goofy. It's also it's completely in line with misunderstanding red pill, blue pill,
Yeah,
right?
right,
The
right. Oh, yeah,
Wachowski
yeah.
siblings, right?
Like, I understand reality. I'm out of your matrix, man.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of your system, man.
Threw it on the
And
ground.
lock
Yeah.
and lock, stock, and barrel, you're buying into it. You are willing to hand your vote and your political power over to people who are far more authoritative than any liberal ever could be.
But
And
it's their brand.
yeah, it's
They'll
their
be
brand.
authoritative
Exactly.
about the right things.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like, in my politics, I'm not completely against certain centralization and authoritative government, but what we're talking about in right wing authoritarianism, it's a very different brand and a very different flavor from things being centrally organized from kind of like a I guess a central brain or whatever, however you want to put it. We can have debates and discussions about whether that works or not, but when you're talking about handing power all over to the interests of private capital in a big way in order to expand upon capitalism and in order to further exploit the working class, that is a completely different kind of effect on society than, say, the government
Mandating vaccines.
mandating vaccines. Exactly. It's
That's basically the government being like, we're doing this for, the interest of business, which definitely will negatively impact you, as opposed to, a lot of you are stupid, so we need to do this for the interest of public health because we can't trust y'all not to be licking lampposts and infecting each other. Like, seriously.
Yeah. You like because you have insulted and taken advantage of your personal freedoms to such a selfish degree that basically nature itself is punishing all of us in this sense, and then all these people can continue to do is pretend that it's not happening and that it
Yeah.
isn't real, and because
And
that is convenient to them.
Yeah, and just so I'm going to segue this a little bit more into vaccinations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people concerned it. So last weekend I went to the Eaton Center. This is the first time I went to the mall when it was open, other than just like walking through the path on the way to and from work.
Yeah.
In a while, I don't know how long exactly. Certainly, I think since the winter, like since everything shut down in Toronto and opened back up. But so I pop in first to BMV, the Books Movies Video Store, and there's a bunch of people out, but whatever, it's Saturday. Then once I got in there did I realize that the people on the street were the fucking anti-masker protesters. And I'm just like, I want to punch myself in the face of all the fucking times that I actually like leave my house
Yeah.
and then I'm subjected to this idiocy. Anywho,
And that these
directly,
people will show up at hospitals.
not just that.
Yeah.
No, not
It's
like
insane.
definitely that, but not just that. But I was even saying to a couple of patrons in the store, I'm like, could you imagine like how great our healthcare could be if these chuckle fucks actually got together to protest something important?
Yeah.
Like, could you fucking imagine if they did this for like dental care,
Yeah,
optical
these same people
care,
cared
for
about
like,
dental care. Yeah, exactly.
or just
Exactly.
like against cuts to healthcare in general, right?
Mhm.
Could you imagine how much further that we would be, how much healthier we would be? Anywho, but
Yeah.
also, so they of course had the signs of like my body, my choice, and yelling about our freedoms, yada yada. And what just shits me utterly to death is that there are all sorts of quote unquote freedoms that we curtail every single day because I don't know if no one's told these people we live in a society.
Yeah.
And so, we need a
Yeah, they see this as like
driving passport to drive.
the decline of civilization, right? That's like kind of like the
Shut up.
narrative that they're trying to float around this. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
it's like, Nah, we're just trying to keep society from collapsing. We're trying to keep the medical system from
Yeah,
collapsing. We're trying to,
exactly.
create the conditions that you can continue to go to work and safely and not be sick. And,
Yeah, like,
uh,
so it's just kind of like, so they're pissed off that there's going to be like the vaccine passports,
mhm,
and guess what? You and I and everyone in my age group and younger and older for the past 100 so years,
mhm,
you've had to have certain vaccines to be able to go to school.
mhm,
My family lived overseas when we were kids. We
yeah,
had all sorts of fucking vaccines to be able to live overseas,
yeah.
and like, and
There
just
are
even
certain
speaking.
vaccines you have to take in order to travel to certain countries, and it's always
Yeah,
been this
absolutely.
way.
There's a list. Yeah. Like if
In
you
order
for
to go to school, in order
that's what I'm saying.
all sorts of public things that we have to
Mhm.
access require this stuff
Public health. Like you can't, like you need
unless
to
you
get
do have an
tested for.
explicit exemption, in which I do
No,
know a
no,
few
not
people
not
who
even
do.
necessarily. Not even
Yeah.
necessarily. If like
Well,
you
yeah, if
might
you're
just not be
exempt
able
from
to fucking do it. Like for
exactly, yeah.
example, if you need to work in healthcare, then you need to test negative for tuberculosis.
Yep.
Like I don't care. It
You can't
doesn't
work in
matter what
healthcare
your medical
otherwise.
exemption is. If you have
You literally
tuberculosis,
can't do it.
you don't get to work in the NICU.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you just fucking don't. There's
Absolutely.
no exemption.
Yep.
You have no freedom
Yep.
to pass on tuberculosis to infants in the ICU. Like it's
Yeah.
just not a fucking thing.
And
And also, like, there's so many mundane, invisible now infringements upon our freedoms, like no shirt, no shoes, no service. Like you're pissed off you can't go in a store without a mask. You can't go in without shoes or
yeah.
a shirt. Like
Yeah.
this is nothing new. This has been a thing for time, my guy.
Yeah.
And like, oh well, they're restricting our freedom of movement. You already have a passport.
Well,
You
it's
can't just cross
obviously like it's
borders.
all like dog whistle and stuff like
Oh,
that
for sure.
for just it's all about being selfish about your personal freedoms, and that's what it's always been about for these people is not is acting like you are the most responsible by promoting ideas that allow you to be beholden, responsible, and accountable to as little as possible
Mhm.
while gaining the most amount of advantage. They are projecting their entire ideology. Like, actually, this is one of my favorite ones out of the little collection that I got here. This very special meme here that is almost outright ableist and mocks the mentally disabled in a way. So kind of a heads up on that. But this meme right here, where it just shows a person with a I guess what you might call a derpy face, to put it for lack of a better term, with the liberal logo stamped on their forehead, asking, "Where's my free stuff?" Right?
Like
Um,
you're talking about, it just it galls me that they're talking about like they're trying to put this into context of oh fuck, what was that quote from the um Christian government? I'm entitled to my entitlements.
yeah,
So they're talking about entitlements with this. You're trying to feel entitled to bypass pandemic restrictions.
yeah.
Like you're trying to
You
bypass
feel
public health
entitled.
restrictions.
Yeah, you feel entitled to put other people in danger just because you don't believe in facts. You feel entitled to make money off of other people's labor and extract labor off their backs. If you are a business owner with employees,
Hmm.
you feel it with it, talk about getting free stuff. If you own a business, you can just make profit off of other people's work. That's what literally owning a
Hmm.
business is. That
Yeah,
that's
well,
I feel like
labor,
I'm
like
stating the
getting other people to work
obvious
for your
here.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, getting other people to work for your business. That's the entire concept is to make money
Hmm.
off of other people. So when
Yeah.
you say like, "Where's my free stuff?" What free stuff is he even talking about? Oh yeah, CERB, That's what all these conservative idiots are upset about is
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants to work anymore. No, nobody wants to get paid fucking beans to be your
Yeah.
slave. That's what nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to do anymore. And the second they were given an option to do otherwise, lo and behold, a lot of them took it. Um, so like the sense of entitlement, and again, it's the projection, right? Is I
Mm-hmm.
feel entitled, but I don't want people to notice that necessarily. So it's actually you that are entitled. You want to take my money, even though I'm making money off of you. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
don't look at the
Yeah.
man behind the green curtain. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Or behind the blue curtain, as it happens to be in Canada.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, no, it's or actually no, it could be the purple curtain with PPP,
Yeah,
PPC, PCC,
yeah.
PP,
And even then,
PPC.
like Serb was, in my opinion, a half measure. And the
Oh,
only
for sure.
and the only reason it was a half measure is so it didn't make people who make shit like this completely lose their minds.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the conservative fear of socialistic action and taking care of people does, in a big way, prevent liberal governments from doing more services for the public. It discourages them from doing it. It's an effective political strategy, unfortunately.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's all a big shit of fuck.
Yeah.
Or am
Uh,
I just?
like, again, if you can make more money off of staying home on some sort of basic income program than working a full time job, guess what? It's your employer that is
Who's
the
taking advantage of
who's
you?
taking advantage of you. It's your employer who is the welfare beneficiary, right?
Hmm.
Um, when you are when rent is so high that the average that a person might need, say, rental assistance from the government to pay their rent, who is
Hmm.
actually receiving that money?
Hmm.
The,
Or who's being bailed out?
who's being bailed out? Yeah, who's
Yeah,
being kept
it's.
rich? Who's being kept in the privileged position? Who's being, economically lubricated to slide up the scale and better their lives? It's not
Hmm.
the person who's actually getting the check in the mail from the government and their names on the piece of mail, right? It ain't that person.
Hmm.
Um, so, yeah, when you're talking about where's my free stuff in regards to lower class and working people, and then especially a lot of these same people have this audacity to call themselves a worker. I'm tired as a working person taking care of these other people. All those other people are working people too.
Yeah.
All those other people are going to shitty jobs to barely survive. And so you want to talk about solidarity amongst workers and then ostracize and blame anyone who is below you on the economic scale as being the source of your problems. It's disgusting. It's
Yeah.
childish. It blows
Yeah.
my mind.
Yeah, and it's frankly delusional, especially when people
Delusional.
have when they have zero understanding of the current economic climate as well,
Yeah.
and to the point where they didn't even see it coming, right?
Yeah.
We're like, oh well, why don't you just stop buying your avocado toast? And it's like, have you looked at how the cost of living have not just skyrocketed during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
but how they've been, quickly ramping up every goddamn year, and the pay is not.
Yeah.
So yeah, buying power is
I
getting
mean,
eroded.
speaking of
And
delusional, this is like the same thing. This meme here. This has been going around in some of the conservative groups I've seen. Uh, Completely out of touch with reality. At one moment, they're mad that Trudeau called the election, and now they make this meme upset that no, we tried to kick him out, but he came back, and that's how we know this whole thing was rigged.
oh god, we're getting
Believing
the American rigged thing up
Yeah, yeah,
here.
yeah.
Oh
Oh,
god.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was right there in it's actually. Oh, yeah. I have it here. Where is it? Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually.
it wasn't.
This
Canadians,
right
you
here.
chuckle fucks.
Yeah. For the bumbling idiot that cannot speak a simple sentence. Yeah, again, adding to the ableism overall, making fun of somebody's speech impediment is really rad. Um, remove myself from your friends list. We, the hard workers of this country.
Fuck out of here.
Which ones are you referring to? The people like myself that I didn't take CERB. And you know what I had to do? Get on a crowded subway with a bunch of morons who didn't believe that a pandemic was happening, putting myself in danger and having to face them every single day to and from and while I was at work. That's what I had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
You entitled schmucks.
Right.
We,
But
the
by
hard
the same
workers of the...
token,
Yeah.
no, go ahead with Al.
Sorry, are beyond sick and tired of this moron taxing us to death again, unless you are north of $200,000 a year, in which case you were doing pretty fucking well.
Yeah.
Trudeau did not raise your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't happen. You
Yeah.
are either mistaken or a deliberate liar.
Yeah.
And I don't know anyone that voted him in. None of my acquaintances or Facebook friends seem to either. This was rigged because you live in the middle of fucking nowhere where there's no one but the people who coddle these beliefs. You are never challenged. These people, like, again, you live in an echo chamber. They live in the ultimate echo chamber.
Yeah.
I have to be exposed to this bullshit all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
They're insulated from it.
Yeah. Well, they're insulated by virtue of where they live.
Yeah, but geographically, in a lot of cases, you look at the strongest blue portions of this province, and they are all largely, say, removed from larger communities.
Yeah, they're not a melting pot.
Yeah, yeah, just to put it that way. So just like the blind narrative, like just towing the line, going against things that you're interested. If you think anyone on the right wing or conservative party is at all interested in protecting real working people, you're fucking delusional. And I will absolutely debate anybody on that subject. I'm happy to do it. I swear, please challenge me. I fucking promise you I will prove you're wrong. And so on to the next one here, because there's there's a few more. Okay, there's that one. Oh yeah, this one, just general general liberal malaise. I've seen this story making the rounds again, just further proving anti-liberal attitude is mostly sunk in conservative, sort of fascistic, racist, nationalistic bullshit. The Taliban killed 158 Canadian soldiers. Really? Okay, let's just start halfway.
For starters,
the meme there.
For starters,
how did that happen? Do you suppose? How did 158 Canadian soldiers?
Yeah, for starters, though, how many of the Americans killed in friendly fire?
Yeah.
Like how many Canadians did the Americans kill in friendly fire?
I would actually, I know there is an uncomfortably substantial number there. I can't remember what it is.
And I say that not knowing the number off the top of my head.
I don't know it off the top of my head, but I do remember it.
No, I'm speaking from experience. Yeah. This was right before my ex-husband went on tour in Afghanistan. His best friend was in Afghanistan. It was his company that got hit with friendly fire, and some of his friends died in that instant. And he actually got permanent damage from that.
Just to be clear, that was American gunfire.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just saying that with the fact, I know this is a thing. This isn't like, oh, blah. No, this was 2006. So this was very much a thing.
Let alone, the fact that that war killed like 1 million Iraqi civilians. Not,
that's fucked up.
Not soldiers, not Taliban, but
and the fact that like
civilians.
Yeah, and the fact that that isn't roundly by the global community called out as war crimes, I don't fucking like.
I think it is. Understand. I think a large part of the global community does recognize that, but you just American imperialism is sort of beyond reproach on the national stage in a lot of ways, right?
That's fact.
It is absolutely, and yeah. So the Trudeau Liberals just called the Taliban our brothers.
Mm.
Let's just consider that the person that said that is somebody who was raised in Afghanistan, is a Muslim, and so it is very much a cultural reference to
Hmm.
even refer to your enemy as our brothers.
Hmm.
That's just something that a lot of people do culturally. So to make it a political point to try and make this like a piece of propaganda, like Trudeau is somehow in favor of the Taliban, when in reality, uh, everything the right wing loves is completely in tune with Taliban ideology.
Hmm.
You name something the Taliban likes, conservatives like it too. Oh, hating
Yeah.
gays? Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Just,
Telling
the
women
white
what to do
version
with
of
their
it.
bodies? Fuck yeah. It's just literally, yeah, paint it white,
Yeah.
and there you go. There you have it. So like just these disgusting smear attempts that aren't based on anything in reality. It uh, like people on the left diss the liberals a lot, and for good reason. In a lot of the ways, when you're attacking liberals and liberalism from the left, I'm all about it. But we have to recognize that the greater enemy here is the right attack on liberalism, because they use it as a whole cascading effect. If they can push just centrist liberalism to seem further left and radical and move the Overton window, as they say, in that direction,
Hmm.
uh, the more that they can get away with, and the
Oh, for
more
sure.
the type of repression that they're down with seems normal and somehow valid, and people buy into this. It's just completely baffling and disgusting. And oh yeah, here's another one. This one I think I shared in my Facebook stories the other day. Uh, so restaurants in Ontario are being threatened that they will get their liquor license pulled if they don't turn away unvaxxed people. Yet, he says, in his brain expanding as he's thinking about it, you can hear it happening. Yet, the government-run liquor stores are open to unvaxxed people. You getting this yet? Kill the small business, left with the government-controlled business. The whole
Uh,
okay, like, I'm just going to state the obvious, because apparently the obvious is not very fucking obvious to these morons. You don't drink at the liquor store. That's why.
and if you do, you get kicked out.
Yeah, you
And
can't.
if any liquor store allowed people drinking in the liquor store, then they'd have
Yeah,
their license revoked too.
you can also buy beer and stuff in Loblaws now, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just government controlled business. You can still buy all kinds of stuff from grocery stores now.
No.
It's you actually have the option that you so wanted. It's ridiculous.
It's
Like, it's an
bananas.
open denial of fact. It's not based in any fucking reality. It's
Well, it's
just
complete
it's just like,
misunderstanding of
I'm
the.
outraged and I want to be
Yeah.
outraged. Don't tell me not to be outraged.
Yeah. And
It's
like one of the frustrating things is that I understand on a intellectual level that the way to reach people is with patience and compassion.
mhm.
And I also recognize that I'm a human, and sometimes I just want to punch myself in the face being
Look,
assaulted with any of this idiocy.
we're 2 years into this thing and constantly having to suffer the
Be the bigger
fallout
person.
of having to be the bigger person, and letting the baby have their bottle just so they stop crying.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
honestly, like I think that we have done a massive disservice to public rhetoric and everyone by uh, putting forth and putting stock in this childish notion that all things are equal. All things are not equal. Like that complete misunderstanding of that. Like all people, their
Mm-hmm.
human value is equal, but not all uh, thoughts or actions are equal.
Right.
And so, like, your opinion that this is a scamdemic is not equal to the fact that it's a fucking pandemic.
Yeah.
These are not equal things. They
No.
should not be given equal weight. People should not be pandered and given the, oh, well, that's just a difference of opinion. No, like if
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the opinion that it's an okay thing to go into a crowd
Mm-hmm.
with a loaded handgun and wave it around and shoot it off willy-nilly,
Mm-hmm.
I'm hurting people if I'm going to go over on people when I might have a potentially infectious disease that may not be symptomatic and I could be passing that along. That is
Well, yeah,
like,
that's like
this
another.
is what
Well,
we're
like this
talking about.
meme here. First of all, how dare they do this to Gene Wilder? This meme here, and it shares the same sentiment as, if your vaccine works, why are you worried about me and stuff like that, and not recognizing
Gene would punch
how
them in the dick.
vaccines and how disease spreads, because like these people obviously have no idea how that works. I'm not an epidemiologist, but I know enough about it because I listened to what epidemiologists have to say. And when you listen to what they have to say, they very clearly and simply explain that, yes, even though you're vaccinated, you can still carry the virus to other people and other unvaccinated people. And the more often that happens, the more you're going to have breakthrough cases. Particularly, there seems to be confusion here. They think breakthrough cases can happen in both the vaxxed and unvaxxed. No, they largely, by great proportion, happen to the unvaxxed. They're the people that this thing is able to mutate in. And if it does mutate, that makes the current round of vaccines less effective, making it that eventually even a fully vaxxed person like myself could end up with a new version of the virus, and we're right back to where we fucking started. You
Mm.
goddamn morons. But besides that, this mask notion here, like, I wanted to make the comparison here because I've actually had a couple family members in the past few years die of lung cancer. So when you say you keep saying that me not wearing a mask is killing you, it's been months. How much longer will it take? 23,000 people have died of COVID in this country this year. In that same amount of time, in our last statistics, I believe from 2019, in regards to lung cancer, 21,000 people died. So less people died of lung cancer than COVID in a single year's time. Could you imagine if I felt entitled enough to continue smoking indoors and somebody had the audacity, or somebody looked at me and thought the audacity of this person, and then said to me, how dare you smoke indoors? What? Only like what? A certain percentage of people die of lung cancer, and I have to limit my freedom to and be
Like,
uncomfortable for
I mean,
you
I know that
for
there were
something
these
that's
people
barely
around like the
disease.
end of the 90s. Yeah, I mean, these people definitely existed at the end of the 90s,
Oh yeah,
early
they
2000,
definitely did.
or
But could you imagine
yeah,
like trying to pull that in this day? It's the exact same sort of thing to say,
yeah.
like, yeah, no, it's actually not that big a problem, you know.
And like, what frustrates me is that, people are saying like, oh, well, we've had the flu forever and, you weren't wearing masks and stuff for that. And it's like, oh my
Maybe we
goodness.
should have been.
Well, like I personally would get vaccinated for the flu every year
Yeah,
because I know a lot of folks with babies and old people and stuff. And so like, I want to protect my people. But
yeah,
my goodness, going forward, you can bet your buns I'm gonna be wearing masks
yeah. Flu
during
was
flu
barely a
season.
thing this year because of pandemic measures. Flu
Well, like
numbers were
even
way down.
so, yeah, even so, I don't want a cold either. Like all of these
Yeah,
things suck. And so if there's more things I can do to protect myself and to protect the people around me, things that are so easy that I have now in my possession anyways, like wearing a fucking mask,
Yeah.
Goddamn right, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
There's like the best solution that they could have come up with. Something that I can keep going forward in my own personal like health and safety measures,
Yeah.
right? Like we all every single day undertake a myriad of health and safety measures. There are so many things that we do to protect ourselves and other people. Like we wear seatbelts, like we cross at the lights, we look both ways.
Yeah.
We, don't jump off the 16th floor balcony to get down to the
Absolutely.
bottom. We take the elevator or the stairs. Like there are so many things that we do because we understand that there are actions and consequences. But for some fucking reason, these goddamn people suddenly there are no consequences. There are only privileges.
Yep.
There are only or not even privileges. There are only quote unquote rights.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are so many things that we do for the benefit of other people. Like I bet you these people don't return their card at the shopping mall.
Yeah.
They just leave that fucker in the middle of the
Yeah,
parking lot.
they must, given their attitude towards others and just being basic and decent. Yeah, it's just outrageous. I was trying to. I lost my last thought there. But either way, we've already run over the hour. I'm sure we're going to be talking more about this ridiculousness of I don't know how else you call it, conservative entitlement. Let's say conservative blind privilege, feeling like you have a right to everything and zero
Like
accountability towards other human
this
beings, or that
yeah, like
being
this
accountable to other human beings is an affront to freedom. It's insane.
Yeah, like this popularization of selfishness and anti-science. Like
Yeah.
it is boggling.
Yeah.
Like, is this
Hey,
is this
conservatives, there's
basically
something you
all?
really got to know. Facts don't care about your feelings. I don't know if you've ever heard
Oh,
that before, but they really ought to learn that.
no. And it's like, is this the result of like jocks being pissed off that the nerds started getting popular? So is that where all this anti-science stuff has come from?
Yeah. Before it
I'm
was all
coming up with a new
science
conspiracy.
bros, and now
No.
not so much, eh?
Yeah. So revenge of the jocks against revenge of the nerds. Yeah, thanks a lot, jocks. I mean, most people who play sports are pretty legit. I enjoy sports, but still, jerks.
Well, thanks so much for coming to ramble on me. I just wanted to riff on these silly post-election and pandemic memes. Because I think we needed that catharsis, and also to point out, to make the strong political point, anti-liberalism from the right and how predominant that is in our society. Like the fact that the PPC, even though they didn't get a seat, they tripled their popular vote this election.
That is not great.
That is not great, and it effectively hurts us all. So let's get a better sense of strategy, and as always, let's take a moment to worship the leader of Antifa, the person that signs all our checks, this duck. And look at him go.
All hail Antifa Duck.
All hail Antifa Duck.